In July 1940, it looked like Britain's war would be over before it had even begun. France had lasted 6 weeks. Few thought Britain could possibly last longer. Yet over the next 4 months, just 3,000 fighter pilots were to deliver the nation from the jaws of defeat. Their Battle of Britain was to create an aviation legend, the Supermarine Spitfire. It's been 60 years since young men were last trained to fly it. Until now, we've chosen 4 pilots to compete for the chance to relive Battle of Britain Spitfire training, to see if they have what it took to become one of the few. What did it take to fly a Spitfire in anger, with the fate of the free world resting on your shoulders? And what was the difference between just being a flyer and a fighter pilot? To find out, we've enlisted 4 pilots who reflect the makeup of the wartime RAF. Fighter Command drew its pilots from various sources, but its core was the pre-war regular RAF. So we've recruited a pilot just out of RAF basic training.
My name's John Sweet, I'm 20 and I'm a pilot in the Air Force. I've just finished my elementary flying training, which is 60 hours worth of flying with the RAF.
Then there was the Auxiliary Air Force, recruited from gentlemen's clubs and universities, the social cream, where the right friends and accent could count as much as your flying skills. To represent these pilots, we've brought in a member of Bristol University Air Squadron.
My name's Ben Musterby-Brooks, I'm 20 years of age and I have approximately 105 hours total on light aircraft. I started my flying at Bodmin Airfield on a RAF flying scholarship, and then I've recently been flying with Bristol University Air Squadron at Kilburn in Wiltshire.
And finally, there were the enthusiasts, desperate to fly. In the 1930s, the RAF paid for young men to join civilian flying schools on the understanding they would enlist in the event of war. This force was called the Volunteer Reserve, and we've got 2 young private pilots to represent this branch of the service.
My name's David Mallon, I'm 22, I'm from Manchester. As a civilian pilot, I've done the private pilot's licence. I've done 80 hours total time. My ambition is to be an airline pilot.
My name's Christian Baker, I'm 21. At this moment in time I'm working for myself. I'm doing a lot with exotic cars. I'm about 5 months now, but I've been doing about 5, possibly 6 hours a week. I'm somewhere in the region of 55, 56 hours and thoroughly enjoying it.
These 4 pilots will be competing for the chance to fly in a plane that has become a legend. As this plane has 2 sets of controls, our trainee pilots fly for themselves. But it won't just be a quick jaunt around the park. The pilot selected for the full 9 hours will be pushed all the way to full combat maneuvers via the disciplines of navigation and formation flying. They will be pushing the Spitfire close to its limits, and while nobody will be shooting at them, they will get a glimpse of some of the biggest hazards facing fighter pilots. But even in 1940, not every pilot got to fly a Spitfire. So only the 2 most promising will get the chance to fly it, and just 1 will then be selected for the 9 hours battle training. Their first challenge, however, will be to convince flight instructor Brendan that they have the right stuff, and like their predecessors, they will have to do it in a Tiger Moth. Our 4 young pilots will begin their journey to become Spitfire pilots here at Headcorn Airfield in Kent, where they will have their piloting skills tested on exactly the plane used by many of their Battle of Britain predecessors, the Tiger Moth. They will be in the hands of flying instructor Brendan O'Brien, who will then make the tough decision which of the 4 pilots will go on to fly the Spitfire.
Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to Headcorn Airfield. The first morning's briefing. My name's Brendan O'Brien and I'm going to be your instructor on the Tiger Moth for the next several days. Now, I think you all know why you're here, but just to recap, okay? You're all going to fly with me on the Tiger Moth over the next few days, yeah? 2 of you then will be selected to go on to fly the Spitfire. Out of those 2, One will be selected to do advanced flying training and aerobatics on the Spitfire. At the end of that time, that person will have a very good idea of what it was like to be a young fighter pilot during World War II.
The first to clamber into the cockpit is Christian. The Tiger Moth made an excellent basic training aircraft during the 30s, as it is said to be easy to fly, but hard to fly well.
You really get this feeling, the smell, and like the old smell. It's just like being back in 1940s. And the airport here where we're at now is such an old-fashioned airport. You might, if you shut your eyes, you might as well be back in the 1940s.
Fuel on.
Fuel on.
Throttle set.
Throttle set.
Contact.
Contact.
Many Battle of Britain pilots earned their wings on Tiger Moths before moving on to advanced trainers and then Spitfires or Hurricanes.
It's all that an elementary trainer should be. But it was a nice aircraft to fly, aerobatic, and because they had so much lift that they bounced about the sky, so that if you're doing formation flying, it was much harder to keep position in a formation. Overall, I'd give it 8 out of 10, I'd say.
Okay, you have control.
Mark control.
Have a good look round, check that it's all clear.
It's clear.
Jolly good. So just lower the nose, elevate your control speed, power, controls ascent and descent.
Okay.
Good. Off you go from there then.
The Tiger Moth will give Brendan a clear idea of each of our pilots' flying abilities, whilst giving them a vivid first impression of the realities of 1930s RAF fighter pilot training.
Okay, all yours, dear old boy. You can side slip down, yes?
Okay.
Whoa, shit.
Sorry.
No, a little bit more subtly, like that, and you're about to flick into the ground, mate.
Okay.
Christian has survived his first flight in the Tiger Moth and is beginning to see why generations of pilots think so highly of them.
How was your first flight?
I tell you what, absolutely brilliant. It's a different world up there. There's so much better visibility and it's so responsive. And you need so much better coordination with the rudders and the stick on this as you would do. And it's not very forgiving, so you've got to be really in tune with the rudder and the ailerons. But it's absolutely brilliant.
Now he's set the standard, it's up to the others to impress Brendan. After 3 days of trials in the Tiger Moth, Brendan has the task of deciding which of our 4 young pilots will be going on to fly Mitchell's revolutionary creation.
After 3 days of really hard flying, it's decision time to decide who is going to go forward to fly the Spitfire. There was clearly at the end, although for the first couple of days it was frankly anybody's, but there was one who was clearly ahead, and that was John. And the reason for that, it did show through, was his professional Air Force training and a great deal of aptitude as well. Ben flew extremely well. Again, with an Air Force training, very competent, a very nice pair of hands, as we say in the business, and I would certainly want him as one of my wingmen. Christian, a great character in sport, full of enthusiasm, and I think considering he was the one with the least number of hours, he did extremely well. Dave, who hasn't actually been doing a lot of regular flying lately, I have to say was the one that improved the most in the shortest period of time.
Gentlemen, the moment of truth. 2 going forward for the Spitfire flying are John and Dave. Well done, both of you.
Thank you very much.
John, your professional training as an Air Force pilot obviously showed through, as well as a great deal of aptitude. Dave, you actually made the greatest over the period of time. A great job, well done. Thank you all very much, and well done.
I'll have a chance to do that kind of stuff, and congratulations.
Cheers, mate.